Hello, I'm Professor David Holden. I'm a military historian and a veteran. All these views are my own and in no way represent the U.S. Army or the federal government. Over the last 2 years, I have witnessed some of the most irrational reasoning that I've seen in my lifetime. But it wasn't just irrationality, it was peddled as truth. And anyone who dared to question the narrative was canceled or labeled as a racist, and sometimes both. The very hallmarks of Western civilization were rejected, and the foundations of the United States were abandoned, spurned, and discarded as relics of systemic racism. The primacy of the individual and freedom of speech were replaced by racial group identities and cancel culture. You either acquiesced and agreed to the new woke vocabulary, or you were silenced. But even that wasn't enough, and soon the chant of "silence is violence" became the new rallying cry. And yet, it did not end there. The United States government then pressured Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, among others, to silence misinformation. We now know that much of that misinformation now appears more accurate than the official narratives of the US government or the social media conglomerates. Observing that COVID likely escaped from a Chinese lab could get you deplatformed on social networks. And if that wasn't enough, someone can claim that even suggesting that it came from a Chinese lab was racist. But then again, it appears everything is racist.
It's precisely what a racist would say.
Questioning the efficacy of masks could also likewise get you banned. Except now they're admitting that cloth masks did virtually nothing for you. And the lockdowns, according to a recent Johns Hopkins study, quite possibly could have done more harm than good once you factor in suicides, drug addiction, mental health, and keeping people locked up inside it spread even more quickly among family members. Is it any wonder why Americans trust Joe Rogan over CNN? Attacks on the rights of women have increased as well, as more and more males transition to participate and compete in women's sports, and those same biological males are allowed into women's locker rooms. What about the rights of women? And that's to say nothing of the 18 million women, give or take, in Afghanistan that have been abandoned to the predations of the Taliban, all while President Biden said it was to end a forever war that has cost fewer soldiers' lives over the last 5 years than police officers that were killed in the United States last year in 2021. It was a war on police that was encouraged by the left, as was the defund the police movement. And of course, the implication was that police officers were largely racist.
If you got rid of every cop with vaguely racist leanings, you'd have 3 cops left.
DAs in left-leaning cities have seen a massive increase in crime, violence, and shoplifting as a result of those policies of the left. For the life of me, I can't understand why anybody would want to be a police officer in America today. It's an incredibly difficult job with little or no thanks. Our kids have been forced to wear masks in school for the last 2 years. Masks which have been shown, outside of the KN95, to be nothing more than facial decoration. Kids have been exposed to radical ideologies of critical race theory, where they were taught if you were white, you were part of the oppressor group, and if you were a minority, you were part of the oppressed group. In essence, in school, one was taught to be judged by the color of their skin, not the content of their character. Even science was not safe. The fact that biology is, well, a fact, came under attack. New radical terms like birthing person came to replace that of mother. How many biological males have you known that gave birth to a child? And even emojis of pregnant men made it onto our phones. That is doing nothing but indulging delusions.
Do you know how delusional you sound?
Government power has expanded in unprecedented ways over the last 2 years, and massive government spending has resulted in massive inflation.
Inflation is obviously a serious problem.
The problem with silencing people for misinformation is that much of that information that was labeled by the federal government as misinformation turned out to be more accurate than the official narratives. And this week, the Department of Homeland Security put out a memo saying that misinformation about COVID was leading to terrorism. That's right. Misinformation about COVID was leading to terrorism. By that logic and rationale, anything could lead to terrorism. Look, you can't legislate for the stupid and the delusional.
I think that guy's delusional.
And then take those laws and apply it to the rest of us. It's just a way to silence information that they do not like. Understand this. Freedom of speech, by definition, means that people will say things that you do not agree with. But it's in the tension between these opposing views that you can work towards truth. But if you can't have the conversations, how are you supposed to get to truth? Attacks on your freedom of speech have a common thread. It's the left's attempt to protect you from yourself. That they know better than you what truth is, what is healthy for you, what is best for you, and perhaps how you should live your life. The left labors under the delusion that with enough power for intervention and control, all the random and terrible things that afflict life can be eliminated. That's right, with enough power and control, all the random things that afflict society can be eliminated. All they need is a bit more control. But here's the thing, it's never enough. You always need just a bit more control. Yet there have been societies that have made just that claim. They were tyrannical and authoritarian, and in the end result in unmitigated disaster for the people that lived under them. And every new authoritarian regime that rears its head promises that this time they're going to do it right, that they won't make the same mistakes. All you need to do is trust them, because they're going to succeed where others failed. With more and bigger government, with more bureaucracy, more rules, more laws, and your life is certainly going to get better. But this is exactly the claim of all such authorities that promise heaven and deliver hell. Because man is flawed. And by extension, every system that he develops is flawed. To paraphrase Kant, nothing straight was ever fashioned from the crooked timber of humanity. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to support me at davidwholden.com. Links down below. And at Patreon. The choice is up to you. I appreciate your support. Thank you.